Hello, welcome to session 2 of God's Great Love Story. Today we'll be discussing what we learned from the foundational books of week 1, and we'll be getting prepared and excited for what's coming up in week 2. If you're anything like me, putting your faith and trust in a force outside yourself can sometimes be easier said than done. I've always been a bit of a perfectionist at work, at home, and at school, and even as a mom. I go to great lengths to make sure that whatever I'm putting out in the world is high quality. I get anxious when I don't have all the answers and details figured out, and I get self-conscious when I'm not meeting my own impossible standards in a certain area. And let's be clear, that pressure isn't coming from anyone else, it's coming from me. My husband, kids, friends, and family are all very supportive, and they don't expect perfection from me, but for some reason I do. For that reason, delegation has always been a bit tricky for me. When I was supervising therapy students in the hospital where I was working, I always had a little bit of a hard time letting a student run with a session plan when I knew they didn't have all the details figured out. At home, even though I claim to be a feminist and I have a husband who's very willing to help me, I still have trouble sometimes letting go of control when it comes to the household chores. He just doesn't load the dishwasher quite like I do, and he doesn't fold the laundry the exact same way that I do. I know logically that that is ridiculous and I have a problem. Other people are just as smart and capable as me, but I still have trouble actually letting go of control sometimes. Now, I hope you're better at delegating than me, but I challenge you to think of some area in your life where maybe you struggle to let go of control and have faith sometimes. Maybe you're finding it difficult to ask for God for guidance in a complicated or difficult circumstance that you're facing right now. Or maybe things are actually going pretty well right now, and you feel no external need to lean on God at the moment. Sometimes I feel like it's almost harder to practice faith in times of success rather than in times of struggle, because those are the times when it's tempting to believe that we have it all figured out. After all, we're smart, we're successful, we have strengths and talents in whatever area we're working in. We're killing it, right? Well, when we're doing well, sometimes we forget about the God who blessed us with all those strengths and circumstances in the first place. We think that we got where we are in life because we're just that smart or just that awesome. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm sure you are very smart and awesome. But I guarantee you, no matter how smart you are, even if you have the most brilliant mind on the planet, God is still smarter than you. He is smarter, bigger, stronger, and better than anyone else who's ever existed. He made everything you see here. Look at that. He made every shade of color in those fall leaves. He made every blade of grass. He also made the human brain with the capacity to make new connections when we learn something new. It gives us the capacity to have emotion, store memories, make decisions, form words, create movement, and so much more. Our God is amazing, and He deserves our trust. We may be people who think we have all the answers and need to be in control, but we have to let go of that control sometimes and trust the God who actually has all the answers. Only then can our life be as awesome as it was designed to be. Our week 1 readings are full of stories of faith. The people in these stories were full of flaws and imperfections, just like you and me, but they led amazing, influential lives because they were willing to let go of their own plans and trust in God's plans instead. When God told Noah that a flood was coming, Noah believed Him. He dropped whatever plans he had for his life and spent an extraordinary amount of time and energy to build a boat. He obediently worked diligently and trusted in God's plan, so when the rains finally came, he was ready. When God broke the news that Abraham and Sarah would be the ancestors of a great nation, can you imagine the faith it must have taken to believe that? They've been trying for years and they were way too old. It was impossible. But when they took a chance and trusted God enough to journey to a new place, God made the impossible possible. When Joseph was sold into slavery by his own brothers and imprisoned for years in Egypt, I imagine it was very tempting for him to give up and turn bitter or resentful toward God. But he never did. He patiently trusted God and waited for the opportunity to use his God-given prophetic ability to impress the king, and God lifted him up to a position of great influence because of that. If that wasn't enough, God then allowed Joseph to reconnect with his family and save their lives. When it was time for Moses to rise up and help lead his people out of slavery, it was not easy at all for him to have faith. He was fearful and shy with uncertainty in his voice. He was not naturally equipped to boldly go before the king and demand the Hebrews' freedom. But ultimately, he trusted God and did it anyway. And God allowed this man to become a remarkable, charismatic leader that performed impossible miracles as a result of that trust. In your discussion today, I encourage you to talk about this idea of faith and how you're doing letting go of control and trusting God in different areas of your life. Talk about the stories from week 1 and how they demonstrate transformative faith. Think about what you might learn from those examples. As you dive into the week 2 readings in the next few days, I hope you're ready for a lot of ups and downs. This compilation of history books covers centuries of politics, scandal, victory, defeat, exile, and restoration. In Deuteronomy, we left a nation of former slaves on the edge of the Promised Land, a land of victory and freedom. You'll be dumbfounded by how the people squander that gift. When I first familiarized myself with these histories, I was of course inspired by the stories of people like Joshua, Ruth, Samuel, David, and Solomon. You'll get to read about these heroes and more in the coming weeks, but you'll also read about leaders who really fell away from God and ultimately led the entire nation away from Him. During those parts of the story, I want you to remember that's not how the story's going to end. When Israel and Judah completely forget about God and earn a time of exile, God doesn't let them stay lost. He protects them and brings them back home when the time is right. I hope you enjoy your discussion today and have a great week. Bye.